Welcome to Battle of the Boroughs, a Knicks and Nets podcast hosted by myself, Alex Wilson, and Spen Harris over at Fireside Nets and Empire Sports Media and Production. Today, we want to intro you guys a new podcast that we're bringing out. We're going to talk about the Knicks, talk about the Nets, similarities, strengths, weaknesses, take a look at the preseason box scores. How are these teams looking ahead of the 2021-22 season? Of course, the Nets got a couple new players. But Paul Millsap and the Knicks, obviously Kemba Walker, Evan Fournier, some big talents here in New York. It's going to be really fun to see how they battle it out this year and try to get the top of that the Eastern Conference, rather. I mean, AL Yankees just got knocked out. Always getting me confused now.
Let's not talk Yankees.
Yeah, let's not talk about the Yankees. Let's not talk about the Yankees. They're done. It's time for basketball, right? It's time for basketball. They've given us an easy exit, and now we're here talking about the Knicks and Nets. And I'm really excited, Spen, to get into this with you because I know, we're opposing fans. I'm a Knicks fan. Spen's a Nets guy. And he's got the shades to rock it. Probably trying to cover up the taint of Kyrie Irving's vaccination decision. But you know what? Here we are trying to figure out how these two teams are going to perform this upcoming season. The Knicks have a lot of expectations. The Nets even more so. Can they win, I guess, their first championship in a while? It's a big question. Everyone wants to know, can the Nets push it to the brink? And ultimately, I think they can. And we're going to talk about that today, talk about the preseason spend. Before we dive into all that stuff, how are you doing today, my friend?
I'm chilling, man. Another day in paradise in Englewood, New Jersey. For those who don't know me, I am Spen Harris, a.k.a. Fireside Nets, a.k.a. Spenny and the Nets on Twitter. And I'm a diehard Nets fan. I've been one since, I believe, 2002 when I went to the Lakers-Nets finals game at the Meadowlands in East Rutherford. Went the next year for the Spurs as well, and I was instantly hooked. I was about 9 years old at the time, and it's just been I don't want to call it a fun ride since, a little topsy-turvy, up and down ride, but I think this franchise is finally in a place where we can be really excited for not only this year, but the next few years to come. So just happy to be here on Battle with the Boroughs, and we're going to put out some really good podcast episodes for you guys in these next few weeks.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. There's so much basketball coming around. It's that time of the year. There's a lot to look forward to, Spen. And, let's dive into the Nets first, because I want to talk about this team. They have a lot of talent. We both were there to see Kevin Durant put up that 50-pointer, the 50-point game or 49-point game in the playoffs. And the guy can carry a team by himself. But the problem is they just didn't have that extra depth to push them over the edge. They were missing Harden. He was banged up. He had the hammy injury, I believe. And of course, Kyrie was out, so now with this team healthy and Kyrie's kind of situation bubbling over, how do you feel about this team going into the season? Do you think Kyrie's going to get vaccinated? Do you think he's going to be out? Do you think he's going to be missing home games? This is a major, I guess not issue, but a major decision for this Nets team. How do you see this kind of unfolding?
So first off, I told myself I wouldn't rehash the Bucks series at all, but I want to go on record and say that if the Brooklyn Nets are healthy in that series, if Kyrie doesn't get hurt, if Harden isn't coming back from a hamstring, if Joe Harris is able to hit one of two shots,
so bad.
It's a completely different series. If Kevin Durant's foot was like 3 inches shorter, it's a completely different series. The Nets move on. They probably beat the Hawks and potentially beat the Suns in the championship. But I told myself I wouldn't rehash that series, Alex. We've moved on. The Bucks won it all. We're in a new season. So let's get to this year's Brooklyn Nets. And it all starts with this Kyrie Irving situation. That's been the biggest news among Nets Twitter. And basically every single Nets fan kind of just didn't pay attention to it, ignored it. We would make these comments here and there over the last few weeks, but we were all under the impression that somehow, some way, Kyrie would get the vaccination and he would be on the court. He would not let his teammate and one of his good friends, who he joined the Brooklyn Nets with, Kevin Durant, down. Last night, as the Yanks were getting crushed by the Sox, Woj sends out the tweet that there's growing uncertainty that the Nets or that Kyrie Irving will get vaccinated and the Nets want to utilize him as a part-time player, and that there's this serious potential that he might not play at all, which scares the piss out of me, scares the piss out of every Nets fan. Look, everyone knows that Kevin Durant and James Harden are the 1-2 punch on this team, but Kyrie could be pretty much viewed as a 2B. He's a 3, but he's not far behind Harden what he's able to do on the basketball court, how he's able to give the Nets scoring when Harden and Durant are on the bench. He can facilitate. He's one of the best mid-range shooters at his position in the game. He's got a ridiculous arsenal of moves to the basket. He's an unbelievable finisher at the rim. So as a lot of Nets fans are seeing this, they're saying, oh, we can still win a championship with just Harden and just Durant. It makes it that much harder to not have Irving on this run. So right now, based on everything I've seen, Alex, it doesn't seem like he's going to get the vaccine. I could be wrong. I don't know the guy. I'm just kind of taking all the information I'm getting from Twitter. I'm getting from these NBA media people, and I'm seeing it. This is a guy who he's not one to conform to the way everyone wants him to be. He's going to do what he wants to do. And up to this point, I'm not sure he's going to get the vaccine, but I am holding out hope because I have seen things where he's trying to exhaust every single option and eventually he will cave and he will get it. But I don't know. It's really up in the air right now.
You want to hear the craziest, I guess, like scenario where the Nets are in the postseason, right?
Yes.
Or they're going for the postseason. Okay, this is actually really interesting. I don't know why this came up into my head. What if they try and get a lower seed, or they try and lose a specific number of games so they have more away games than home games so that he can play in them? You know what I mean? Like they start the series off away because they want to be away so he can play instead of at home. You know what I'm trying to say?
I do. I don't think Sean Marks and Steve Nash will
try and do that.
Will even exercise that idea.
Weird.
Well, no, if he was going to play, yeah, I don't think so. I don't think it's either he's all. I don't even think they entertain the idea of him just playing on the road. And by the way, Alex, what professional athlete would just want to play games on the road? You don't want to get cheered. You literally want to get booed every single
crazy to me.
Game you love. It's fucking ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. And you know what? When I'm looking at Kyrie's situation right now, he's gonna lose. I think it was $400K a game. He doesn't play at home. Like $400K a game. You know what I would do for just one game of his pay? Do you have any idea what I would do? I would swing across New York City like Spider-Man butt naked to get $400K a game. Like he's I mean, he can make his own decisions. He's a grown man. Of course, maybe he's trying to exhaust every option to figure out, religious exemption or whatever the hell it might be. They've already been like, no, that's not going to work because we know, maybe you're not religious. I don't even know how they determine that really. How if you're like, I'm religious.
It didn't work for Andrew Wiggins.
He had to get it. How do you figure that out? Like, are they like, does he go to church every Sunday? Like, nope. All right. Well, he's not getting it. It's like, like, how do you determine this? Like your religious, I don't know, commitment, but a really interesting kind of thing there. The NBA has to make decisions on, but I'll say this. Kyrie Irving, definitely him not getting vaccinated is going to have a huge impact on this team this upcoming season. But they still have Harden. They still got Durant. That's enough to win games. That's enough to win games by a long shot. We saw what Durant could do alone. If James Harden is there and healthy, and then you have Blake Griffin, you have Johnson, you got Patty Mills who's coming here. You have so much good talent. You still got Joe Harris. You got Paul Millsap now. And, when you're looking at this box score from the first preseason game, of course they didn't play any of their big guys, Harden, Irving, Irving can't play at all, but Durant and Harden obviously are not playing here. Who stood out to you in this first preseason game that you were like, oh, like this guy actually looks pretty sharp? I imagine you're going to say maybe Cam Thomas here, that little shooting guard out of LSU. First round pick for you guys, look phenomenal. But who was there, like, that showed up and was like, maybe this guy can be an impact player for us this season?
Yeah, there were a lot of guys who played well. In fact, I think everyone on the team, and Dumboya, who's not on the team anymore, he even played well. The one guy who stood out, you mentioned it earlier, rookie Cam Thomas. He was the co-MVP of the Summer League with Davion Mitchell, and he is just a guy who can get a bucket whenever he wants. I mean, you saw his acumen off the dribble. He's got some great moves. He knows how to get to his spots. He's got an excellent step-back shot. The one knock on him is he just doesn't like to pass, which I'm sort of okay with because, let's face it, Kyrie Irving, passing, he's a great passer and a willing passer, but Kyrie Irving's a score-first shooting guard, and he was a point guard. Now he's shooting guard. That's what Cam Thomas is. Cam Thomas is a score-first player. He's not going to need to pass the ball that much. In fact, he did have 2 assists. He had one beautiful alley-oop. I think it was to Kekok, Devontae Kekok, but No, Cam Thomas was a monster. He played really well. Some other guys who really stepped up and looked good. Day'Ron Sharpe, the rookie out of North Carolina, 13 points for him, 6 rebounds in 14 minutes. He really looked tough out there, and he looked like someone who can bang with the big bodies in the NBA. There was this entire series of events with Dwight Howard where Howard essentially threw an elbow into Day'Ron Sharpe's lip. It was a dirty play. I think Howard got a technical. Sharpe's lip was bleeding, and we were wondering, how are you going to respond after that? He came out. He basically he had a solid game. I mentioned his stats earlier, but he just got every rebound. He was hungry. He had one play where he took it off the dribble. He missed it on the back iron, but he jumped up, got his rebound, and slammed it through with one hand. And it was just a really nice move for a guy who's supposed to be pretty raw offensively. So those two guys, the rookies, and then just some other names. Kaycock, who's someone who's been in the G League for a little bit. He looked good in his 12 minutes of play. The two wily veterans, Lamarcus Aldridge and Paul Millsap, they really look like they haven't missed a step. LMA looked great. He had 10 points. He had 6 points and 4 rebounds. Millsap had 10 points and 10 rebounds. And then Bruce Brown Jr., someone who Nets fans should be extremely familiar with. He had 2 threes to start the first quarter. And this is a guy who's not known as a three-point shooter, but he's worked on it in the offseason. If he's able to add that element to his game, that can do such a great – it could just be huge for this team. And I think he's someone who the Nets are going to have to lean on if Kyrie's out for however long. So those are some guys who played really well. A player that didn't kind of play up to his potential is Nick Claxton. In 13 minutes, he had 3 points, 3 rebounds, but he just, I don't know, he looked a step slow out there. Nets fans on Twitter thought he looked exhausted at times. And he's someone who we've been waiting on to develop offensively. And if this game means anything, he's not there yet. He just didn't look like he had it. Sharpe, the rookie out of UNC, outplayed Claxton. So Claxton's got to be careful, Alex. There's a lot of guys in this front court. You brought up Blake Griffin, Kevin Durant, LMA, Paul Millsap. Kessler Edwards is going to be a two-way player. Kaycock is another big guy. There's just too many guys on this roster who will give that energy, give that effort if Claxton isn't willing to do what needs to be done.
Yeah, I mean, and we talked about this before the podcast that Day'Ron Sharpe has 50 pounds on him. You know,
he does.
A 50-pound advantage. He's a big dude. He's a big boy, and he can put some bodies on some guys in the paint. And I think that's going to be huge because there's some big centers like Clint Capella, Dwight Howard, Anthony Davis. These guys who can bulldoze their way into the paint. Giannis. You want to have those big guys up in there. To leave a mark, you want them to come away from that rim when they're trying to drive and being like, I don't want to go back there, man, because I'm getting my ass kicked. Old Detroit Pistons kind of style, like beat the shit out of them. And that's kind of vibe Sharpe gives me. I was looking at him as a Knicks fan. I was looking at him in the draft and saying, I really like this guy. I wrote a couple of evaluations on him. And he's a physical guy, but he's raw. Like you said, he's raw offensively. But if he can gather himself offensively, like Claxton has shown in the past, that's something that will probably give him the edge, even as a rookie. I wouldn't say Claxton by any means is an established player. He's still up and coming. So Payne has an opportunity here to kind of shake the basket there with that alignment, that combinations, and maybe he can steal some minutes from him this upcoming season. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. And just credit to Sean Marks. Look, you mentioned it earlier, but Joe Harris, Kevin Durant, Patty Mills, Blake Griffin, James Harden, Kyrie Irving, James Johnson. That's 7 guys who are going to be key pieces. I mean, 3 of those guys are the best players on the Nets. And then Joe Harris is a starter. Blake Griffin can start. Possibly 5 starters weren't in this game. Yet they dominated the Lakers. The Lakers started Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis and DeAndre Jordan played in this game. Like they had Taylor Horton Tucker, I believe, played in this game. They had guys who they gave minutes to, and the final score was 123-97. And what was cool about this game was every single player on the Nets roster gave something unique. They really did. And I brought up all these guys, but DeAndre Bembry is another one. 8 points, 5 rebounds in 24 minutes. He's someone who can give the Nets minutes. Javon Carter. Right now, it seems like the trade for Javon Carter was smart. If Kyrie Irving's not going to play, that's point guard depth. You need that. David Duke is another guy on a 2-way contract, probably 13 points in 31 minutes for him. You just go down the list. Everyone on this team seemed to bring it in that preseason game, and they seemed to bring something unique to this team that wasn't there earlier. So, and that's on Sean Marks for putting that roster together. So I was super pleased with the win. Obviously, it's the preseason. It means nothing, but once you add the 5 or 7 most important players on this team to this roster that we saw this previous Sunday, you might not even need Kyrie Irving, Alex.
Well, man, it's tough to say because we as a Knicks fan base have struggled through the age of not having a point guard. And let me tell you, it sucks. And it sucks a lot. When you have Alfred Payton tossing up bricks every game, and then the coaching staff, kudos to them for saying positive things. He was an important part of their defensive scheme. And I will give him that. He had some defensive abilities. He created some every now and then. Obviously, the defense went from being one of the worst to one of the best last season, mainly in part because of that, I guess, discipline that Tom Thibodeau, provided Alfred Payton. But I will say this, he's useless as a scorer, and the Knicks needed somebody to step up in the postseason, and they had to ride Derrick Rose into the ground trying to get that team to perform well because Julius Randle was being triple teamed. They were covering him up. They were just collapsing the paint the second he got in there. But this year, they go out and get Kemba Walker. And Kemba Walker coming in here, he's a Bronx kid, man. He wants to dominate. All he's been saying is, I'm a Bronx kid. I'm home. I'm ready to go. And Derrick Rose is like, he's the starter. Like, don't even worry about me. I'll be with the second team. I'll be running with the twos with Quickly and Alec Burks and Randall. He plays every minute. But when you heard that Kemba Walker was going to the Knicks, and there were rumors, of course. Damian Lillard's the big one, and Chris Paul. The Knicks were connected to everybody, including my mom's. Everybody was going to the Knicks this past offseason. Ended up being Kemba Walker as the big name. When you heard that originally, what did you think about that? What was your first impression? Was that a good or a bad thing? Or like, if he can stay healthy, that's a home run for this team.
That's a great question. And I'm sorry that your mom's didn't get signed by the Knicks, by the way. I wish her my condolences. It's funny because you talked about the Knicks not having a point guard. Well, they kind of had 2 last year in Rose and Quickly, and now they add Kemba. So you sort of have 3 point guards now. Kemba's clearly the starter. Quickly still a project, and Rose will be the first guy off the bench. It's insurance. I like Kemba. I don't love Kemba. I think that Kemba's a little bit injury prone. I think that it's been a while since he put up a really productive season where he was healthy for the majority of it. So that's why you have the Derrick Rose and the Quickly right behind him. So you have that depth at point guard. You got 3 point guards you can play on any given night. Did I think the Kemba Walker signing made them that much better? Not really. I think the combination of bringing in Fournier, bringing in Walker, re-signing the Taj Gibsons, the Nerlens Noels, getting those guys back, and now with the growth of RJ Barrett after 1 year, you still have Randall, who's essentially your MVP, and you did okay in the draft. McBride, Grimes, these are guys who can possibly contribute this year. And then Obi Toppin is someone who, showed promise last year. He can have a bigger role this year and elevate his game. So I like what the Knicks have done in the offseason, but to your original question, how crazy was I about the Kemba Walker signing? Not a lot, because I saw how little he gave for the Celtics this past season, and I hope he doesn't do that for the Knicks. Like, I want you guys to be competitive. I want you guys to be a little bit better than last year. I don't know. I got to see it to believe it. So that's how I feel. Fair. But yeah, I guess I got a question for you though. So what are your expectations as a Knicks fan coming in? Because me as a Nets fan, I'm championship or bust. If we don't win this year, I think we're fucked for the future for some odd reason. I think it was either last year or this year. And then after this year, I'm a little bit scared. But you guys are in that position where you're still growing. You're not necessarily a 1 or 2 seed yet, possibly a 3 seed, probably 5 to 6 is accurate. But tell me, what are your expectations for this Knicks team?
My expectations are simple. Get past the first round of the playoffs. And then if we lose in the second round, so be it. You know what I mean? Just win at least a couple games. Or if you're going to lose in the first round, make it competitive. The Hawks crushed us. Clint Capella crushed us. Trae Young crushed us at home. You know what I mean? Put together good performances. Compete. If it comes down to the wire, so be it, but show growth. A lot of teams got better this year. Now, Philadelphia got better. The Nets got better. Milwaukee, you could even say, got better with this championship under their belt. So
I don't know if you could say Philadelphia got better because they're about to lose.
Well, they're about to lose they're about to lose Ben Simmons, but who knows what they get back?
Right.
We'll see how that goes. Of course, that's kind of an ongoing situation. The Bulls. The Heat's got better. There's a lot of good teams in this division now. The Wizards are still, competitive at the least at that back seed spot in the play-in tournament. So, how can the Knicks kind of take that step along with their opponents? That's the thing. A lot of teams got better. They have to match that. And I do want to talk about that point guard spot for a second, because you had some good points. And, as an unbiased person looking from the outside in, it definitely is nice to hear, what your thoughts are, because if you ask a Knicks fan, they're like, Kemba Walker's God. He's the Messiah. He's the second coming of Jesus. That's what he is for this team right now, because we had Alfred frickin' Payton last year. You have to understand. We just turned water into wine. This was an act of miraculous. This was, curing a blind man. This is crazy for us, So getting a legitimate point guard who's an all-star, 4 all-star appearances consecutively, not more than over a year ago, just a year before 2020's performance, he was an all-star. So that's a big, big step for us. Now, the way I view this point guard spot, and let me know if you think this is crazy.
Okay.
They set this up perfectly for the future and the present. They have Derrick Rose and Kemba Walker. Both of them played about 40, 45 games last year, which is about half a season. They can use them interchangeably, mitigate fatigue with that. So let's say they play 82 games, but they play half the game. They play half the amount of minutes.
Sure.
They can theoretically keep them healthy that way. So I love how they did that. And they also have Emmanuel Quickley, who's really taken big steps forward as a point guard. He had 7 assists in the first preseason game, which says to me he's acting more as a facilitator. He's looking a lot better with his court vision, something he's been working on diligently this offseason. I think that for the most part, during Summer League 2, he was averaging 7 to 8 assists per game. He looked phenomenal as a facilitator. He had 10 points, but the 7 assists really stood out to me. He also had 6 rebounds, all of them defensive. He's a player that is up and coming, but he's adding new attributes to his game, and he's learning from guys like Kemba and Derrick Rose, which I really, really like for him. Miles McBride, on the other hand, young guy from West Virginia. He's tough as hell, biggest hands and biggest wingspan of any point guard in the draft class. So he has a couple of really good attributes physically there. He's also a really good sleight of hand guy. So he's really good defensively, really good at poking balls free. And really making some plays on the defensive side, intercepting balls in the passing lanes and whatnot. So I really like him as a defensive player first and foremost, which is what Tom Thibodeau likes. He also shot 50% from 3 in the Summer League and like 53% from the field. He looked pretty good in the Summer League. Of course, that's not an indication of what he's going to do at the professional level. Summer League is mostly first-year guys and backups and reserves, or guys coming back from injury. So it's hard to say what they're going to do at that next level, especially in front of a whole crowd of fans and MSG and the energy there. So McBride, he's kind of a guy, ride the bench, learn from these veterans, learn from these older guys, soak in as much information as you can, get your minutes when you can get them. Quickly, though, I see this as like this point guard situations. You have 2 guys who can help win now in Rose and Kemba, and then you have 2 guys in McBride and Quickly who could be solutions down the line, because essentially Kemba and Rose only have 2-year contracts. Rose's contract is 3 years, but it's avoidable in the 3rd season. So you have a win now solution and a long-term solution, as those guys McBride and Quickly can learn and grow behind those 2 veterans. What do you think about that point guard situation? I think they set it up absolutely perfectly for the future, but also so that they can win now and have contributors ASAP.
No, I can absolutely get behind that. I like the way the Knicks put together their roster. I mean, they added in places where they lacked. You lose Reggie Bullock, you add Evan Fournier, you lose Alfred Payton, which wasn't really a loss, it was more of an addition by subtraction, and you add Kemba Walker. Like the way they drafted, even this Jericho Sims guy, 8 points and 6 rebounds. Now we're getting into their preseason game against the Pacers, which they won 125-104.
Sims is legit. Young center.
He looks good, man. I'm taking a look at the stats. I watched a little bit of the game, and I like him and McBride over Grimes. I'm not crazy about the
Grimes was the
pick.
Duarte backup. That's what happened. They settled on Grimes because he's Duarte 2.0. You know what I mean? Duarte's like that 3-and-D player who has even more to offer. Grimes, they see the same way, but he's a little bit lacking in terms of development. They tried to trade up and get Duarte. They wanted him badly, and he looks great so far. He was killing it in Summer League. He shot, I think, 50% against the Knicks yesterday. He looked like a good player. I'm looking at his stats right now. He 20 minutes, 5 for 11, 2 of 6 from 3, 3 for 3 from free throws. Defensively, lacked a little bit, but again, Grimes only played 4 minutes, didn't really make any contribution. So you're looking at two different players here. Duarte is more refined. He's ready for the NBA now, but Grimes, I wouldn't sleep on him, man. He plays good defense. He closes out quickly. He's a good shooter when he gets going. During the second half of the summer league games, I think he played in 6 of them. The last 2 or 3, he was scoring 20+ points a game. He started off slow, really finished strong. So he's got the it factor. Like, he can play, man. He can ball. Problem is, he just needs the reps, and I don't think he's going to get that many this year. So he could be a 2-3 year project. We're looking to see him really blossom in that 3rd year.
I hope you're right, man. I hope we're not looking at a Kevin Knox 2.0. I'll tell you that much.
I think that was old management, man. Like, personally, old management was so garbage. I mean, look, a lot of people will vouch for Ntilikina and Frank and whatnot, and great guy, great defender, but the guy just never developed as a scorer, and they needed scoring. The NBA is going in a direction where if you're not hitting 3-point shots, you're losing games.
Right.
You have to hit 3-point clips at a high rate. The Knicks, they ranked 3rd in the NBA last year in 3-point percentage, but they ranked in the bottom half in 3-point attempts. So they got to get those attempts up, and they got to remain consistent with the percentage. The Nets, on the other hand, were up there in both of them. So
yep.
I think they were ranked 2nd. Behind maybe the Clippers are 1st, and the Clippers were 2nd place. So Knicks got to be better in that category, and I think Ntilikina never was that 3-point shooter. Grimes can be. He's a pretty damn good shooter. He's a 3-and-D style player with more to work with. So that's kind of how I see that young guy to begin with, but it's going to be tough to get him on the floor. The Knicks have just so much talent, so many mouths to feed. How do you get them all on the floor at once? I mean, Thibodeau even said they're going to be rolling with a 3-guard system on the second team. They're going to roll with Quickly, Burks, and Derrick Rose on the floor at the same time. So that's a pretty intriguing kind of matchup there. He's like, any 3 of them could be taking the handles and bringing the ball up court at any moment. They could all be playing point guard at the same time. So just to keep defenses on their toes. It's going to be interesting. I don't know how he's going to combine all these different players, especially Obi Toppin. I don't even know where he fits in.
I like the fact that you guys brought back Burks. I like Burks as a scoring option. I like his game a lot. He was good in Philadelphia too when he was over there. And then you're bringing two former Celtics, Fournier and Walker. So clearly you guys had a crush on the Celtics last year. You like what they did.
Really cheap for Kemba.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess my question to you, and this is an interesting one. So you add Kemba, right? You still have Julius Randle. He is your primary scorer. If the game is on the line, 20 seconds left, you're down 1, who is taking the shot to win the game?
I say you go with a hot hand. Whoever's playing better that game. If they're both playing evenly, you got to go with Julius Randle. He's your all-star.
Okay, so you go with Randle over Kemba. Okay.
You got to go with Randle because he's the guy you're paying. He's your long-term player. You got to trust him. You got to put that faith in him. You got to let him build that confidence, man. You can't take it away from him because he's a guy that feeds off of that. You know what I mean? Like, even if he misses, he wants the opportunities. Kemba, I think he wants it too, but again, he's 2 years and done maybe. Who knows? And at the same time, I really think maybe he goes hot hand. If Kemba's having a ridiculous game, I think Randle should have the wherewithal to say, okay, you know what? He's balling. Let him take that shot. And I think that's kind of what they're trying to build here is a lot of, discipline, but also like kind of team, sportsmanship and teamsmanship with this team. They feel like they're friends. They're playing fun. If you watch the game against the Pacers, the preseason game, they look like they're playing fun with heart, and they want to have fun while they're competing. So I think that's a really unique thing that I haven't seen the Knicks do in quite some time.
I have one more question for you. It's a follow-up. But before I even get to that, I just want to say to all the listeners out there, do you guys understand how lucky you are? What me and Alex are giving you on the Nets and the Knicks, it's fucking gold. Okay, we know our shit. We pay attention. I'm a diehard Nets fan. He's a diehard Knicks fan. Alex covers the New York Giants. And obviously, for the past few years, it's been a bit of a rocky road to have to cover it. Yeah. Like you said, it fucking sucks.
Don't even sugarcoat it, man.
So now I got Alex talking about a team that actually gets him excited, a team that was in the playoffs last year.
I can't stop.
His 4th seed Knicks. I'm talking about a team that, oh, man, these last few days have been a roller coaster for me.
Golden age.
A golden age, but Sunday after that preseason game, I was so hyped going into coming off a Giants win, a Nets domination preseason game over the Lakers, and then all of a sudden last night happens, I get the Yanks and I get the Kyrie information. So I got to be happy about New York sports for about 2 days before that. But
they always come back to get you.
I just want to say you guys are extremely lucky that we're doing this. And this Battle of the Boroughs show, it's already off to an awesome start. But my follow-up question to who's going to take the last shot is the funny thing about the Knicks is, and we haven't said this out loud, but we've glossed over it. Your roster is extremely balanced. You got a large roster with a ton of guys. You have a ton of depth. And my question to you is, to close out a game, who is your ideal five? Like, who are you playing in the last 2-3 minutes of a close game?
That's a good question. Who do you think? That's a tough question.
A quick glance. I see. I don't know about Kemba's health. Like, I want to say Kemba, but if he's unhealthy, it's Derrick Rose, it's Quickly, it's Randall, it's Barrett, and then I guess Gibson or Noel, right? I guess Noel. If you're going for defensive, you're going for offensive, go Gibson.
Yeah, I mean, Gibson has that experience. Noel, they're just different. I mean, they're just different players. You still got Mitchell Robinson. He's coming back from injury and whatnot. It's honestly,
it's a tough
question.
How
Noel played. I loved how Noel played last year. He played his heart off, man. He was going up there. He competed.
I'm sorry. I would replace Quickly with Fournier. I totally forgot about Evan Fournier. He's got to be in there. So it's Kemba, Rose, Fournier, Randall. Give me Noel.
Mitch.
Those are my last five.
I think I go with Mitch. I gotta go Mitch. I mean, look, essentially, I think I'm going with Kemba because you're a prolific scorer, right? He's a better scorer than Derrick Rose. But Derrick Rose, the way I view it is Derrick Rose is a better general. He's a better floor manager. He'll make an impact without touching the ball. You know what I mean? Kemba Walker, his biggest impact is when he has the ball in his hands. Of course, you got Julius Randle, you got RJ Barrett, you got Fournier, and I think you got Mitch. You know what I mean? Like, RJ Barrett can't be left out of this conversation. He is going to take a big step forward, and I think that he's legit, man. He's going to be good.
So out of those four guys, right? Because I don't think I had Barrett in that second lineup.
No.
When it's Kemba, Fournier, Rose, who do you take out and replace with Barrett?
Probably Rose.
Okay. So it'd be Kemba, Fournier, Barrett, Randall, Noel. That's your five.
Or Mitchell.
Mitchell. I'm sorry, you said Mitchell. Okay. Yeah. All right. I think that's fair.
Lineup.
It's a pretty good lineup. Yeah, you got to go RJ, right? He's your second guy after Randall, essentially. That's what you're trying to say. Okay. I totally get that. Damn, yo. That's basketball season's close, man. I need it, bro. October 19th. Out of all these guys, who is the guy you are most excited to see? And I'll give you my net after this.
Oh, out of all these guys, who am I the most excited? I know what Julius Randle's going to do. He's going to play really well. He already looked really sharp. He's been working his ass off. Fournier, I'm not entirely excited to see Fournier. He's going to make an impact, but he's not like I'm like, oh my God. Honestly, I think I'm really excited to see RJ Barrett. I think I'm really excited to see how he grows, man. Like, if he takes that step forward, this team's going to be no joke. You know what I mean? They have strengths at every position. If he makes that step forward, Mitch Robinson is one of the best defending centers in the league, in my opinion. He's also added a ton of mass. He can guard the perimeter. He's a very unique player. But his offense needs to get a little bit better there. That's
I hate those dribbling videos of Robinson when he's doing like between the leg dribbles and shooting threes. Cares? Those piss me off, bro.
That's Noel to start.
Get in the paint, Mitchell.
Yeah, get in there. You have enough 3-point shooters now. But I think RJ Barrett, man, like that's the guy I'm looking at saying, if he takes that step forward, if he starts hitting shots, hitting those elbow shots, hitting those jump shots consistently, he's driving to the rim and he's doing well. He can start finishing with his right hand, not his left. He's a lefty. If he can start finishing with that right hand, and he's connecting from deep, not just from the corner. He's really, really good corner three shooter. But if he can connect from all points on that line, beyond the arc, rather, he's going to be no joke. He's going to be a very productive player. He's going to be a threat. And he's going to open up the court for guys like Randall and Kemba and Fournier. So that's my guy. I think RJ, I just can't wait to see what he becomes. Really, that's what I'm most excited about.
I don't know if you know this about me, Alex, but I'm a Duke fan.
Okay.
So I watched a lot of RJ and Zion when they played that 1 year together. And when you guys got him, I knew he was going to be good. No, I wasn't even mad. I knew he was going to be good. Like, the Nets couldn't grab him because they didn't have a pick like that. But he's just one of those guys. He was so good in college, and he can score in such a variety of ways. And he's tall, right? He's like, what, 6'7", 6'8"? RJ, or he's shorter? Confirm his height for me if you can. But he had it all. Like in college, that 1 year, he can get to the rim. He can dunk on you. He's 6 what?
6'6". He's actually shorter.
Okay, he's a few inches shorter, but he plays big. He's a big guard. You know what I mean? He's still a guard, and he plays bigger than he is. So I just loved his game coming out of college. Am I happy that you guys got him? No, but look, we got to be competitive. If we got KD and Harden, you guys can have Randall and Barrett. That's sort of how I feel at this point. I'll give you the one net I'm looking forward to, and it's kind of a tie between two guys. The obvious answer is Cam Thomas after what he did in the preseason. The minutes he's able to get as a rookie coming in would be great if he's able to find time. They have a very crowded backcourt, even without Kyrie, if he sits out. Patty Mills, James Harden, Bruce Brown, Javon Carter, Joe Harris, if you want to consider him a guard, and then this Cam Thomas guy. So I'm excited to see him, what he brings to the table. Another guy I'm really excited to watch, and I was such a fan of this guy the few games he played last year, is Lamarcus Aldridge. When Lamarcus Aldridge was in this offense, it was almost like you were playing one of those fighter games and the fighter reaches their ultimate potential and you get like a game breaker. I don't know. I didn't play a lot of the games, so clearly my lack of knowledge is showing here. But when Lamarcus Aldridge entered that offense last year, it made the Nets almost like a cheat code. Because when they had their center hitting mid-range jump shots like they were layups, hitting the occasional three-point shot, being smart enough to hit guys cutting to the rim, he was such a joy to play last year in his, 3 or 4 games with the Nets until he had to basically retire because of these heart issues he was having. He was just so fun to watch, and he meshed with KD. He meshed with the guys who were on the court. It was either Harden or Kyrie who didn't get to play with him because they were hurt. But he was extremely good, and he was better than DeAndre Jordan. He's better than Nick Claxton. I guess him and Blake Griffin will have to share time at the center position for now, but he is someone I'm excited to see back on the court, given everything that he went through these past few months and the courage that it must have taken him to be like, you know what? I did fear for my life at one point with these issues with my chest. I took a step away, but the doctors cleared me. The Nets doctors cleared me. I'm ready to play again. I'm ready to contribute. And we have unfinished business to do. That's what he said. That's a reason he came back. And that was a huge theme at the Nets media day is this phrase, unfinished business. So Lamarcus Aldridge and Cam Thomas are the two guys. They're tied. I'm looking forward to most on the Brooklyn Nets.
Yeah, look, Lamarcus Aldridge's situation was pretty scary. I didn't even think he was going to make it back, honestly. So it's pretty awesome he was able to do so. But yeah, look, you guys have a great team. There's no doubt about it. You guys have stars, like bona fide superstars at multiple positions. The Knicks have one maybe star at power forward. I would say Julius Randle's a star. He's only been a star for a little while though. He's not a supernova. He's a new superstar. He's a new star. Yeah. He's a new star. One more really good season, he'll be 3 seasons away from superstar. You know what I mean?
One really good season and one really good playoff series, because he's got to show us he could do that now.
Exactly. He's got to do it when it matters. He's got to do it when it matters. If he can do that, if he can have another great season and then perform in the playoffs, we can elevate him to superstar. But right now, he's still a star. And that's the thing about your team, though. You got 3 superstars.
Oh, so Brandon, you're making me blush. Brandon, I'm sorry, Alex, you're making me blush.
I thought it was like a reference or something to something else. I was like, Brandon, who the frick is Brandon? But yes, essentially, you have a great team, and the Knicks are getting there, and we're hoping that they can do better. But guys, thank you so much for tuning into the first episode of Battle of the Boroughs and joining us and talking about these 2 hopefully great teams this year and really competing and trying to figure out who's that big brother. Because right now, I'd say the Nets have an edge over us in terms of talent, but the Knicks always going to be the big brother, bro. Always. So let's see if you can steal that status away with a championship. Maybe we'll consider it. We'll consider giving it.
We're gonna have some fun debates on this show, man. We are gonna get after it. The shit talk on this podcast is gonna be electric.
Oh, when the series starts. I'm talking so much shit, bro. I'm a shit talker at heart, man.
I'm excited, man. I'm excited for this.
Absolutely, man. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the first episode, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.